You see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor Dean Obeidallah. So, Dean,
watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles, and you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obeidallah Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the resistance, my fellow patriots. Tonight, Tuesday, November 6th. We have been counting this down to Judgment Day for over a year. Day by day by day, especially in the last 100 days. We began it, and I call it Judgment Day. In fact, for Judgment Day, we need the actual sound effect. Yes! And if I could do a voice of God, I would tell you, get out and vote. Every poll, unless you live in Kentucky or Indiana, just in the little eastern portions, everywhere else in this nation, you can still vote. If you haven't voted, get out there and vote. You know the stakes. There's no need to even go through them. But I will just tell you, it is very clear. You have Trump's vision of America, which is one where cruelty is celebrated, where white supremacy is emboldened, where demonizing women is cheered, and where political violence is encouraged. If you like that, vote Republican. It's very simple. I can't change your mind. But if you want a nation where compassion is celebrated, where diversity is valued, where women are believed, where people are treated equally regardless of their sexual orientation, and where freedom of religion doesn't mean just the ability to pray, but to do so without fear of practicing a minority faith, there's one place to vote, the Democratic Party. And that's it, my friends. Get out there and vote. I went and voted today in Manhattan, where I live. I've never seen a turnout like we saw. In fact, the poll works like we can't believe it. Voting machines at like 2 in the afternoon were filling up with ballots because it's computerized, but they keep a paper ballot. And they were filling the machines. They had to change the machine. So some were out of order and the lines, people were waiting. And for like 25 minutes, which might not sound like anything depending where you live in the country, that was tremendous for these districts. And so today was a huge turnout across the nation. We'll talk about it. But first, here is Samantha Bee last night on her show urging people to vote. Here's clip number 2.
I know the phantasmagoria of lies and racism and scaremongering has been exhausting, but all that shit has been exhausting us for 2 years. Now we finally get to do something about it. You are all like elite marathon runners, but for horrified rage. You've been training at altitude for 2 years. Now it's time to do the thing. If you haven't yet, make a voting plan. Here's mine. Enjoy a heavy breakfast of 3 different potatoes because, girl, you deserve.
And ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to hear this. We have a lot of guests tonight in and out. Third hour, John Fugelsang and Raul Reyes will be here in studio. But I'd love to hear from you. What are you seeing? Like, what are the polling locations you're going to? Are there lines there? Are there energy there? Are people excited? Are you talking to people who are surprising you that they're voting? And we'll go through some of the exit polls. They've released exit polls, not results yet, just exit polls. The only results they're releasing so far, and it's very, very early, is one congressional race in Kentucky. So in Indiana, part of Indiana. We'll go through a lot more. There's so much going on. Here, though, Stephen Colbert last night, he breaks down the whole election in 30 seconds and tells us what's going to happen today. Here's clip number 3.
Modern statistical analysis can tell me exactly who's going to win tomorrow so I can sleep tonight. Let's just crunch the numbers, okay? In the Midwest, Heidi Heitkamp is down by 9, but Claire McCaskill is up by 3. Beto O'Rourke is in a dead heat with Ted Cruz. Then again, Andrew Gillum is a Sagittarius and should expect good career news this month, even though Venus is in retrograde. Meanwhile, his opponent, Ron DeSantis, was born in the Chinese year of the horse, so his unlucky numbers are 1, 5, and 6, and Election Day is on the 6th of November. But Nevada's Dean Heller saw his shadow, which means 6 more weeks of election. Make it stop!
Make it stop! What are we going to talk about after tonight? Now, we have a lot to talk about. I'm sure we're going to get a Mueller report soon. We're going to do a whole look back at what happened in the election, the results were. And if you know Triumph, the insult comic dog, you might know him from years on Conan, then his own show. It's Robert Smigel runs Triumph, and I'm friends with Robert. I haven't talked to Robert. I guess I interviewed him like 7-8 months ago, last time I chatted with him. Well, he went to Texas, and it was on Colbert's show. He talked to Beto O'Rourke himself, and he talked to Ted Cruz as a little dog, like a plastic dog that smokes a cigar. Triumph, the insult dog. You must know him. He's always something is good to poop on. Well, that's what he says. That's his line. Here is Triumph from last night talking to Beto O'Rourke, the real Beto O'Rourke. It's not a joke. Clip number 4.
Believe it or not, this is not the 12th man on every NBA team. This is the one and only Beto O'Rourke. Thank you, Beto. I saw the speech. I love the way you were anybody but Ted Cruz. Thank you. Tell me this, Beto. Does it concern you that half your base thinks they can vote for you through Instagram?
Yeah, it's going to happen into real votes. But we're seeing a huge voter turnout.
I know, but I'm worried about these voting machines changing Beto's name to Cruz. Tell me this, though. With the uncertainty surrounding these voting machines, is it now more important than ever for Democrats to go out there and vote twice?
Vote once. That's the law.
Fair enough. Come on. This is the man, right? What's Ted Cruz have that you don't have? Besides the ability to regenerate his tail.
Ted Cruz has the ability to regenerate his tail like a reptile that he is. That's why it's funny. And then Triumph went to Ted Cruz. And here he is talking to real Ted Cruz. It's played on Colbert last night. Here's clip number 5.
Let's be civil here, okay? Because this man, nobody should be yelling at this man in a public place. I mean, doesn't the man have the right to sit down in a restaurant and enjoy a meal that 5 waiters have spit in?
Well, I will say to Triumph 2 things. One, as a Cuban American, anyone smoking a cigar can't be all bad.
That's right.
And 2, I just want to say to Triumph, my advice is walk away.
Walk away.
And just remember, it wasn't the Republicans, it was the Democrats that took you into the vet to get fixed. And there is freedom on the other side.
I support spaying and neutering, just like Trump did to you.
Just like Trump neutered him. So that was some funny stuff. So here are some exit polls. We'll get some serious stuff now. And I'd love to hear from you, 866-997-4748. What's your predictions? What do you think is going to happen tonight? What do you hope is going to happen tonight? Do you think we're going to take the Senate, the House? It's remarkable to me the governor races are not been talked about. I think in the detail they deserve. They're going to have a huge impact. Many of the governor's races will have an impact on people's lives right away because they'll expand Medicaid in states like Wisconsin, Florida, Georgia. So there's a chance that it'll change people's lives for the better. Early exit polls, just so you know, 2/3, this just came out a short time ago, 2/3 of voters saying their voting in the election today is about Donald Trump, and more are showing up at the polls to express opposition than support for Trump, which if you're a Republican in a swing district, that's the worst thing you could ever hear right there. Because the election was, if it's about Trump, you lose in a swing district. If it's about the economy or about your job, perhaps you survive. But because Trump nationalized the election and made it about himself and about bigotry and racism, voters came out and said they don't like that. We're going to see how it all turns out. Obviously, there are some people who are very happy with Donald Trump. People who believe that their dominance in our society, their loss of status is real, that they're going to lose their dominance as a group, a.k.a. white people who are concerned about changing demographics. Donald Trump is a savior to them. But for everyone else, we're going to find out tonight because I looked forward to tonight and dreaded it at the same time. And it's not about winning or losing the election. It's about what it says of our fellow Americans. If you are not troubled by Donald Trump's bigotry and racism and sexism as we've seen and his corruption, then what are you about? You're about his white supremacy. There's no else, like you're either not troubled by it or you support it. That's really what it comes down to. It's your choice. But if Americans come out and the numbers are really strongly against that, it makes it clear that no, Trump and his base are outliers. They are not the mainstream American. Because the economy, yes, on paper it's good, but it's Obama's economy. There's no doubt about it. Let's be blunt about this. Unemployment's come down in the last 10 years, about 10 points. Of that 10 points, it's come down 1 point under Trump. 1 point. 1 points. Literally. 4.8% to 3.7%. How much have wages gone up in the last year? 0.8% after inflation. That doesn't even include the spike in gas prices. And labor participation rate. Let's talk about that. That's the percentage of Americans who are over 16 who've got a job. So of all the Americans out there 16 and over, Trump takes office, 62.9% labor participation rate. Well, if Trump's doing such a great job, that number should have floated up, right? It should be 64%, 65%, 66% because he's creating more jobs and more people are going out into the workplace and getting jobs, right? He comes in, it's at 62.9%. What is it at today, as of last Friday? 62.9%. So Donald Trump has done a great job as a salesman to tell people the economy is better than it is. It is a solid economy thanks to President Obama. The tax cut in the exit polling, it's showing about 30% of Americans said they saw anything from this tax cut. Now, they polled CEOs of corporations. The number will be way over that. Way over that. But it's not. They're polling rank and file human beings who don't have $500,000 jobs, don't fly on private jets, and they've seen nothing from it. So that didn't work. And this is where we are today. And I want to play a clip. I found this moving today. Here's Pamela Aguirre. She's an older woman. I can't tell her age, maybe 75, 80, maybe 85, in Texas, talking, how old? 77. Talking to Garrett Haake from NBC in Texas. She just voted for Beto O'Rourke. And she's very emotional. I want to play this clip. Here's clip number 6.
You were here when Beto came to cast his vote, and you told me this was very emotional for you. Why?
Well, because I wasn't expecting it, and because we think he's pretty important, and we're honored that he was here.
Why is he so important?
Because he represents everything that Donald Trump isn't.
He represents everything that Donald Trump isn't. What will it feel like if you see him win this race tonight?
Everything. Just everything. We want him to win. And we'll be watching the TV tonight with him. He'll be someplace in the city. But it'll mean just so much. It'll mean that, by gosh, we all still have a chance to have a decent country and the decent values.
We still have a chance to have a decent country with decent values. And on some level, it almost seems like that should be the 2020 Democratic theme. The return to decency. The return to what we believe America is supposed to stand for. A nation that does not celebrate cruelty. Donald Trump, to me, the way I sum him up, his currency, his reason for being, what he's about is cruelty. And now he has fellow Americans who would have never celebrated cruelty doing that with him. When they cheer Dr. Christine Ford, when he mocks a victim of sexual assault, I am sure these same people would have never done that on their own. Even if they had questions if she was telling the truth or not, they would not have mocked her and ridiculed her. But Donald Trump at his rally gave them permission. They did it. I'm sure that if you told a normal American, even a Republican, hey, this guy running for Congress, Greg Gianforte, did not like his question a reporter asked, so he literally grabbed the guy, body slammed him to the ground. What do you think of that? I bet even if the person said, hey, there's a lot of fake news out there, but there's no place for physical violence, they would have said that. But no, Donald Trump at a rally 2 weeks ago enticed the crowd to laugh at the idea of physical violence against a reporter who asked the question that he didn't like. That's who Donald Trump is. Donald Trump celebrates cruelty. We need to celebrate compassion and caring and civility. And if that makes us look weaker on some level, I don't really care. Because being an American, being a progressive, but I think being an American, not just a progressive, means caring for people. It means empathy. It means compassion. It means believing in a government that is not just for the wealthy, but one that's going to help people, that's going to be there, a safety net. It's going to be there with health care, and the list goes on of issues. And if there's a reason, it's why Democrats have created Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security and food stamps and the ACA, because that is the DNA of our party. The DNA of the Democratic Party is to help people in need. The DNA of the Republican Party is to help the wealthy so they can give them campaign donations. It's pretty stark. I don't see any kind of over the top that I'm saying that in a way that's hyperbolic. That's the truth. That's where we are. So, all right, let's take a break. I want to hear from you. This hour, you're my guest. Right to the top of the hour. It's election night. I promise if there's any breaking news from the TV, I will tell you. But really, the polls don't really start closing until 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock, parts of Florida close, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, South Carolina, Virginia, and Vermont. Then 7:30, we get to North Carolina, Ohio, West Virginia, and 8 o'clock, a big swath of states, and 9 o'clock, a lot of swaths of states. So let's take a break. Come back. Take your calls, 866-997-4748. It's election night. What did you see at the polls? What do you think we're going to see tonight? What do you hope we're going to see tonight? And what's the next step for Democrats? Say we win the House. What do you want them to do next? 866-997-4748. Be right back with more of the Dean Obeidallah Show on your calls right after this.
Progressive values are the best of American values, and we need to keep fighting for them to save our country.
Don't go anywhere. This is the Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.